Welcome back everyone, Laure here. Joining me right now is Chovy after Griffin's second victory today. Congratulations on this one. It looks like you're way more confident than last week. Would you agree, and what is different?
우선 너무 축하드립니다. 지난주보다 훨씬 더 자신감을 되찾은 그리핀 모습인 것 같은데 어떤 점이 달라졌나요?
일단 팀적으로 대화가 잘 안 돼서 플레이가 잘 진행이 되지 않았는데 이제 계속 경기하면서 팀원들끼리 이제 대화가 잘 통하니까 플레이가 잘 되니까 자신감도 되찾은 것 같습니다.
So we lacked of communication, so we couldn't play together, but it's getting better, so we can communicate, so we play better, and that helps us to get confidence.
Yeah, you really seem to be on point today, and you have one last game to play against G2 at the end of the day. You lost the first one, and you need to win this one if you want to stay in first place contention on your group. So what is the key to take G2 down, and did you learn anything from watching them play?
이제 오늘 한 경기가 남았어요. 이제 G2랑 경기 남았는데 첫 라운드 때는 졌잖아요. 이제 여태까지 한 경기를 보면서 이제 경기를 한 것 좀 배운 점이 있는지, 그리고 이제 어떻게 해야지 G2랑 이길 수 있는지. 그냥 G2랑 이겨야지 시드1을 이제 받을 수 있는 거잖아요. 네.
일단 G2와의 경기에서 저희가 못한 것을 좀 많이 발견해서 보완했고, 다음 질문이 뭐였죠?
네?
다음 질문이
그러니까 G2 경기를 하면서 이제 보면서 배운 점이 있는지,
네.
그리고 자신 있는지 약간 그런 G2.
오늘 경기요?
네, 이제 한 경기 남은 거잖아요. 네.
G2와 경기하면서 복귀를 해봤는데 부족한 점이 좀 많이 보였던 것 같고, 오늘 경기는 일단 자신 있고 타이브레이커인가? 추가 경기 할 수 있도록 잘 해보겠습니다.
So after the first game we played against G2, we found out that we made many mistakes. So we tried our best to correct all these mistakes. And so we have to win the next one to play the tiebreaker. So we'll try our best.
We know that they all have mechanically gifted players, which is also the situation in Griffin. So which player should you focus in G2 to take them down?
이제 G2가 각각 선수가 피지컬이 정말 대단한 선수로 이제 유명해요. 그리핀도 그렇고. 그래서 G2 선수 어떤 선수에 집중을 해야지 이길 수 있을까요?
제가 볼 때 G2 선수는 한 선수를 집중적으로 하는 것보다 전체적으로 잘해서 천천히 압박하는 게 더 맞는 것 같다고 생각합니다.
I think against G2, either focusing on one player, I think we'll have to pressure all of them together and take it slow.
Oh, wow. I wish you good luck on that. Thank you very much for the interview, Chovy. Thank you, Hajin, for the translation, as always. And back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Laure, Chovy, and Hajin, and welcome back to the World's Group Stage, where G2 are looking to keep their momentum going against C9. Now, I know this all feels like a bit of a pre-show to G2 Griffin at the end of the day, but unfortunately, if we take a look at the standings, that is how this group has played out, as is sometimes the case at Worlds. So just to repeat, these are the standings, with Cloud9 and Hong Kong Attitude now unfortunately out, but able to play Spoiler, and G2 and Griffin playing for that first place.
Yeah, you know, C9 don't have the chance to make it out, but the chance to get that win against their friends from across the ocean and knock them down a peg is one they're going to be fighting for.
Also, I want to welcome Kobe to the desk. We had a bit of lane swaps today. Now, Jat, C9 Jat was actually Griffin Jat. What is Kobe? Where do your
He's flip-flopping everywhere.
I actually planted my Cloud9 flag in the sand in game number 1, and that was misplaced. They got blasted by Griffin, so it's definitely a rough day.
So
right?
G2 or Griffin?
G2 or Griffin going to win the group?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with G2, actually.
We'll see.
Nice,
We'll
my
see.
man.
For that, of course, still games have to be played, and this one, even though C9 is out, is still a hype clash between G2 and Cloud9, because last time they played, it was a very interesting game where there were actually a lot of good moments from the side of Cloud9.
Yeah, I think the start got off to, you know, a good one here for Cloud9, especially Licorice in the top lane. He had the good matchup of the Aatrox versus the Vladimir, found a solo kill, even with Jankos coming up towards that top side of the map. So if there was ever a lane to look at here to be hopeful for Cloud9, it is Licorice with a counter pick.
With Licorice in mind, I also think about Wunder. He's, as a player, I think he's both Nuguri and the Shy in one. I think in this tournament has been too much Nuguri because he doesn't need to compensate for anything. He has very strong players around the map. He doesn't need to pick a Kayle blind, doesn't need to pick a Vladimir blind. Just pick a solid pick, and you know Wunder can show up big time.
Looking at that match history, too, it's important to remember G2 with the focus on bottom lane, banning the Veigar and the Heimerdinger away from Sneaky. They know Cloud9 have been playing mages in the bottom side. Those two are much easier to lane than Cassiopeia, and then they expose that bottom lane. So Cloud9 also going to have to focus on that area. Perkz and Mikyx were one of the biggest reasons why G2 actually won that game.
They were, and we'll see if that'll be the same case in this game. I also want to look at the mid lane, and the two players who I think have been performing very well for their respective teams, albeit with more wins on the side of Caps so far.
Yeah, Caps has looked absolutely phenomenal in this tournament, which is maybe a little bit of a surprise because in the playoffs, he was not his usual self where he's, coming out and dominating every single lane, having a huge impact in his games. But even earlier today, we saw a Caps that was rotating around the map and really getting the ball rolling.
The question for Nisqy for me is that I think C9 as a whole has underperformed, so I think it's hard to kind of put the onus on one specific player, but maybe there's an opening for them in this game.
I think it's very difficult because Caps has performed so well in this tournament. Nisqy has some of those pocket picks that maybe he can show up with. It was surprising that Cassiopeia went in the bot lane because Nisqy's Cassiopeia have been on the receiving end on that one and have been destroyed in a third place match back in Europe last year.
One of the
Why do you have to do him like that?
One of the biggest things I was looking forward to with this matchup was how much both these mid laners can roam. And in the game on screen right now was a really good example of Caps destroying them on the Ryze. He was by far the richest person in the entire game on that Ryze, absolutely taking over.
Yeah, and when we look at Nisqy as a player, even going back to his days in Europe, he was always a guy that sort of flew under the radar in the regular season, but come playoffs, come the times where it really mattered most, he did show up. And yes, C9 has already been eliminated here, but if there was ever a time, I haven't seen it yet, I want to see it now.
Yeah, for sure. It's just so tough against Caps because I compare him to what he used to be last year at the World Championship when he was in Fnatic. He was a player that just dominated lane and either he fell apart or he did good. But now on G2, he has learned so much from Perkz, plays the map so well, roams all across the map, and he's so fully fledged as a player ever since he joined G2. And I think it just proves that it was the best career decision he could make.
What have you done with Craps then? Only Claps is showing up here?
Through and
Claps
through.
only?
He's like in the middle. He's like in the middle between Claps.
No, he's just
and
Claps.
No, he's been
just Claps so far.
Okay, never mind. Okay, well, he's doing great. How does C9 win this game, Kobe?
Whew. Okay, well, they're definitely going to have to clean up from the first game of the day. Versus Griffin, I think they underperformed across the board, everybody making individual mistakes. In North America, Reaper does this thing he calls brain check, where he asks every player at the beginning of the game to turn on their brain.
Oh.
So start with that. But then if you get into the draft, I think you have to be ready for G2 to roam a lot. Mikyx goes mid, Caps goes top, Jankos goes bottom. So they need to get winning lanes drafted. That involves some flex picks for themselves. And then also something with mobility for Svenskeren. You cannot put him on stuff like the Nocturne that doesn't have a jump. Either Jarvan or Lee Sin that will get him out of a bad spot if they find themselves getting pincered.
Kobe, after Groups End, do you mind if we borrow Reaper for a little bit to brain checks on
Gotcha.
Jankos and Mikyx sometimes? I would appreciate that. I think G2 would too.
I mean, maybe that could be a good in. We're going to see if G2 can keep that 6-0 dream alive. Let's hand it over to Jankos, VODs, and Jat to get us into game.
Thank you very much, Shox. I'm Jankos, here with VODs and Jat to get us into. And so here's the thing. I cut off the introduction. That is Jat. We're getting into game. But this is my concern. At the start of summer season, we're like, this is the split where G2 get the perfect split. G2 immediately entered the next week. They ran it down. And that's every time it comes time for G2 to perfect anything, bad things happen. And I feel like that might be the best thing going for C9 right now.
So listen, we've had 3 teams go 6-0 in group stage since we've had this format in 2014. It was Samsung White who went on to win the World Championship. It was 2015 SKT who went on to win the World Championship. And it was Longzhu in 2017 who lost in the quarterfinals. But that's still 2 out of 3. It's pretty good. So you would want to try and go 6-0. And if G2 was able to win this one and their final game against Griffin, they would be the first non-Korean team to go undefeated in the World's group stage.
While that is true, Jan, one of the problems that G2 inherently has is that when the games mean less, they have more freedom to experiment with things that they've been theory crafting, trying out, playing with, and given that now they're primarily playing for first seed, and you know that G2 is saying we don't care who we play against in the quarterfinals, we're confident that we can beat anyone, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some new picks coming out in this matchup.
Would not surprise me either, but so far for the bans, we see something pretty standard up against G2. The Yumi's a new one, but the Rakan taken away from Mikyx. The Yasuo, of course, something that Cloud9 just does not want to deal with. I like that G2 G2 Esports ban the Qiyana. They got it last time. It went horribly, and I think it makes a lot of sense for them to take it off the board this time around, and some respect to Nisqy by taking the Heimer away as well.
Yeah, and I also think there's been a lot of conversation with C9 about whether or not they should be starting Svenskeren or Blabber, or whether or not Nisqy should be on an AD carry or a mage. But I think another important discussion for Cloud9 is what will Nisqy play? Because throughout the summer split, he showed the majority of his success on melee champions like Aurelia, Sylas, Kayle, or Qiyana. So the Qiyana ban is good. We know how nerfed Sylas is. If I'm looking for a C9 victory, I would want to see them try and pick around him on an Aurelia or an Kayle.
But for now, it is the Kayle. Could technically go into the hands of Licorice. We've also seen it in the bot lane in a single game in the hands of Teddy. So obviously can be used as a flex pick, but may already be set to go into the mid lane, especially if this Renekton does get locked in. But G2 do not hesitate to lock in the Ryze as well as the Kai'Sa in their first rotation.
Yeah, and Vedius, this is looking pretty G2 tryhard, right? I think the 6-0 is very meaningful. I don't think Worlds is necessarily the time to do the happy games. We'll have to see with the rest of the draft going through here. But if this Renekton is locked in, I think that would be actually a good pick for C9.
What does surprise me from G2's side is the fact that they chose to prioritize the Kai'Sa over something like the Xayah, because multiple times during the regular season we would see them pair up a variety of different supports with the Xayah, even if the Rakan was not available. So showcasing a slightly different priority, this could suggest right now that they're thinking along the lines of the Nautilus, who is up and available. If they don't feel comfortable, they could also do the Morgana, which is a pretty strong pick into the Thresh as well.
And now with the Rek'Sai locked in, interesting to me that Cloud9 did not opt to pick up something like the Xayah. You talk about kind of that identity crisis of them not knowing if they want to play mages or AD carries. And given that that has been, outside of Kai'Sa, the best-in-class AD carry, I feel like C9 must be looking for a mage bottom, and G2 can just ban that Xayah away and limit some of the top-tier options.
Yeah, there's so much flexibility available in this game, knowing that if this game does go to late game, that Cloud9 will have sustained damage thanks to their Kayle lock-in, which can go to either their mid or their top lane. So it's more known what's happening for G2 since Kai'Sa isn't a flex pick and will definitely be going bot lane.
Ooh, the Civi ban coming out from G2. I know this was something that was pretty popular earlier in the year, maybe even earlier this split, but after the nerfs kind of fell out of contention. Still showing that respect over towards Nisqy though. And we talked about melee mid laners that Nisqy has prioritized a lot during the regular season. With the Aurelia being banned away from Cloud9, this is actually more directed towards Wunder in the top lane. This was something that he would often go towards during the regular season to act as more of a split pusher and lane carry, especially given as Perkz is likely going to be playing more of the defensive scaling bot side of the map.
And before today, before the Shen game that Licorice played earlier, he was the best performing top laner in this group in terms of laning stats. Found multiple solo kills, was always up in CS. And so to set him up for success by banning away two premier top laners feels like a good source or a choice from the side of Cloud9 as we might just, that would be a new one. The Mikyx Blitzcrank locked in on stage. I'm ready for it.
Now, we have already seen a lot of Blitzcrank this tournament, primarily from RNG. We did get to see it from Fnatic as well, and we were wondering if it was going to spread out into other groups. This is an opportunity now for G2 to showcase some of their Blitzcrank mechanics and see how much the team plays around it.
Sneaky's Caitlyn. Jat, you got to, as the NA representative, you got to talk to me about this one.
So Caitlyn is a pick that C9 and the rest of NA played somewhat sparingly, but it was basically when they wanted to play very heavily around bottom lane and actually get a lot of early turret plates. So in this composition, it may seem a little bit odd since they do have the Kayle, but that would generally be used as like a bridging mechanism. So you have a strong Caitlyn to get you through the early game, and then Kayle would try and come in the mid or late.
But you heard Yamano talk about it on the desk. Nisqy's Cassio, it wreaked havoc in Europe. Now we have to see the same, if he can do the same as an NA representative on the world stage. That's a pretty big pick.
So I was thinking that G2 could consider a Kled right now, just because they lack a little bit of engage, and I also think that it matches up very well into the Kayle. But given that they're hovering through a variety of picks, it looks like that the Ryze will actually be sent into the top lane for Wunder, a champion that he did in fact get a pentakill on at the MSI group stages.
And honestly, hoping to repeat that performance once again. All too crucial for G2 to try to close out cleanly in this group, try to make sure that they will come out as the first seed as we move later in the tournament.
Now, something you were talking about, Jack, was how when they pick the Caitlyn, they often like to try and play through the bot side of the map. And interestingly, this is something we saw a lot from C9 during the finals when they played up against Team Liquid. Svenskeren was actually a lot more active around the bot side of the map when he felt that bot lane discrepancy, like in the form of Double Lift and Core JJ. And he found a lot of successful opportunities, especially when investing a lot in that side of the map.
Yeah, and I'm going to be curious to see the start of this game because we know Unfortunately for Cloud9, this will be the first time they haven't advanced to the quarterfinals since the last time Worlds was in Europe in 2015. And sometimes when that happens to teams, the pressure could come off and they can play a little bit more free. We almost saw it with GAM Esports yesterday when they jumped out to that early lead over Splice. G2 is a much more formidable opponent, a Worlds favorite looking to go undefeated in this group. But if Cloud9 wants to try and spoil that, now is their chance.
That's all you can say. It's time for a little bit of EU-NA action. Cloud9 versus G2 Esports. Here we go. Berlin and Verdi alive and ready. Cloud9 versus G2. As you mentioned earlier, Jack, Cloud9 sadly already knocked out, but G2 playing for a perfect group, playing to lock in first seed. However, the level 1 going to be crucial here. Cloud9 clearly set up for a G2 play.
It's the classic solo queue, level 1 start. Group up in a bush, wait for the Blitzcrank to appear. G2 not going to overcommit into the enemy jungle. Or are they?
Really trying to hype up the drama. How much mana will Mickey burn before he gets to lane, throwing hooks into random bushes?
Will C9 be spotted in there? The answer is no. Looks like nothing's going to be happening at the level 1 mark. What's really interesting to me is I have very little experience with a Kai'Sa and a Blitzcrank lane. Because typically, when you pair something up with a Blitzcrank, you kind of want it to have an element of lane dominance. Things like Draven, things like Caitlyn pair up with it very well as well, and even Xayah to a lesser degree. But I feel like Kai'Sa is not a champion that if you land a hook, you necessarily are going to find that kill or pick on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole just dilemma of picking Blitzcrank in pro. Landing successful Blitz hooks often has reduced chances if the other team has strong vision control or if they're extremely good players, and it's very hard to actually find the angles at the pro level to land several successful hooks. And on top of that, if the other team has lane priority, you can't hook past a minion, right? So you have to find really interesting ways to try and weave around it. I think it will be difficult for Mikyx to land hooks, and all the more impressive if he ends up having a great game.
And when you compare it to Zeysal's Thresh on the opposite side, just higher risk, higher reward on the side of the Blitzcrank. Thresh also very focused on the hooks, but has the Lantern, has the Flay, has more defensive utility, whereas Blitz is, he doesn't land that hook, he's just trying to walk at you.
Yeah, I will say when we saw this from RNG, it was also into a Thresh, and that's a spot where I think the matchup can be very good for Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank has a quarter-second cast time on his hook. The Thresh hook is a half-second cast time, so as soon as Zeysal starts winding up, Mikyx can just hook Zeysal, right? If he can see the Blitz, then Blitz can see him, and Blitz will actually get the hook on him. So that's another reason you might see the Blitz that early.
It's like a real-life cowboy draw, you know? Who gets the draw first, who's able to find that first shot will be very important in that matchup. Speaking of matchups, we've got to keep track of the junglers. Both of them have path up towards the top side. Jankos and Svenskeren both level 3.
Kick gonna come in. Jankos now trying to find the knockup. He's there. Wunder going to be able to follow up here. Prune Prison does manage to connect. Svenskeren now has to run. He just leaps forward. That's the ferocious bite. First blood, and now Licorice is in trouble. Nisqy now coming up. The heal is there. They're trying to chase this one down. They've set their eyes on Jankos, but that means Licorice is going to go down. This is a disaster. C9 getting cut down on the top side of the map.
So I'm also going to be really interested to see Cloud9 against HKA. That's just such a bad start for C9. Literally 3 deaths in a 2v3 in the top river, 3.5 minutes against G2. Total disaster.
And the thing is for Cloud9 is they want to try and play around their bot side of the map. This is where they have the Caitlyn and the Thresh. And you can understand Svenskeren wants to try and cover for the Kayle. He can see that Jankos may look for an early gank up towards the top side, but they just overcommit. Kayle at level 2 does nothing. And given the fact that Licorice is separated away from Svenskeren while Jankos is just beating down onto him,
he does speed Nisqy into his death. Don't discredit the Kayle at level 2, Vedius.
The level 3 double buff Rek'Sai, super strong. Also fortuitous for G2 that 2 kills go over to the Ryze, now tier completed. And that's the second game today where Svenskeren has died contesting that top Scuttle Crab when they have the weaker top lane 2v2. So the same mistake beats C9 twice here.
It has to be so frustrating for him, especially you're going up against Hail of Blades Rek'Sai as well, so so much burst damage. And you think back, this is a dream start for G2 because we compare it to the last time they played up against C9. So hold that thought. Svenskeren will dash out, forced to use the control ward. This was not a great start to the game for G2 last time around. They got that kill on the bottom side of the map.
He's going to kill him again.
Well, he's a flashless kill.
Licorice walking away. What can he dodge? The creep wave is there. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So the thing with the flux bounces now is they're just going to bounce.
Yeah,
so if you're close to the minions, Wunder knew what to do right there to secure that kill.
Ryze has been made much simpler in terms of his mechanics, and a Kayle without flash, unfortunately, ends up losing his life. Jankos now using this freedom.
Going in, level 4 to level 3. This might comes out from Svenskeren. He's just waiting on the bite. Jankos going to walk away, focus on the camp instead. Gentlemen, I was going to make a point, I forgot what it was, and I don't know if it matters anymore, to be completely honest. This game has been blown wide open. This is a 2K gold lead at 5 minutes in, and G2, I think, expected to be a dominant force in the World Championship. But after the last game, I think I gave maybe C9 too much credit coming into this game. They're getting ripped apart.
I think just the type of play that happened in the top river, bad early game plays can have various levels of consequence. When you give the Hail of Blades, Rek'Sai, and the top lane Ryze that much advantage into an already disadvantaged top lane matchup, the rest of the map can just collapse around it. And then you add that to the fact that Jankos is an incredibly smart jungler. He's going to do everything he can to accelerate the game and keep that advantage up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Jat. It's one of those situations where we've seen even multiple times against G2 where they fall to an early deficit but then bounce back. When you give this team an early lead, they are one of the best, if not the best, in Europe at ballooning those gold leads, especially between the 10 and 15-minute mark. And with C9 already at this disadvantage, they're going to have to make some pretty miraculous plays in order to reclaim some of this gold deficit.
Svenskeren waiting in the brush. Perfect ward. Perkz is going to spot that one out. Now Licorice has to run for the hills. The speed buff starts to fall away, and Jankos just gets to walk forward. Licorice so weak at this stage of the game. Caps can fish for the scout of the week here. Can look to get something more. The knockup, will it be in time? The last one, he's just chasing him. This is where you're going to go. I'm going to chase right after you. The knockup's there. The scout of the week follow-up's going to come out. Licorice now in trouble. Ferocious bite. Doesn't need it. Caps grabs another kill.
Yeah, just a disaster game for Licorice. And we also got to keep in mind that top lane play put both solo lanes at a large disadvantage. So I definitely don't think Licorice should have been there to get that ward, knowing Caps is going to have mid lane priority. If anyone goes to check him, he's going to die. So this game was already worse. Now it's just worser for C9.
Worser, I like that. The good news is Nisqy is doing fine on the bottom side. He's playing against a first-time Blitzcrank. This is the most you can ask for, 59 to 47. And I feel like that's the lane that Cloud9 need to get something done. You said it in draft, and now it's amplified by the early game. Licorice might die again. Said bot lane, buddy. He's going to get hit up. He's going to get taken out. He's dead again, folks. That's it. 6-0, G2 dominating. Well, maybe this is the moment, though. Mikyx, first-time Blitzcrank, might go with his first death on the champion as well. Svenskeren going to walk forward and take him out. No chance to outplay that one. Nisqy going to get it with the last auto.
So you may kill Cloud9 6 times before 10 minutes, but you will not perfect game this team. They've successfully found a kill down towards the bot side of the map, and at least it's something back. But with a 3K goal deficit already at 8 minutes, they're going to have to keep finding these picks to claw their way back into the game.
Yeah, definitely a very disappointing open for C9, but they'll want to try and play around bot side as much as possible. Svenskeren, level 5, has the 3v2 because they had just seen Rek'Sai top lane, so this was the correct play for C9 to make at the time, and then they're also able to secure the kill onto their carry.
Yeah, the wave was actually in a fantastic spot for C9 there as well. They could have zoned Perkz away from a lot of farm, and you can see the discrepancy starting to be built between the two bot laners.
That looks fancy. Does not able to land the Hex Splash hook there from Mikyx. Svenskeren walking down. He has been spotted on the ward, but the hook does manage to connect Zeysal. Gonna step forward. They're not going to flash out to safety. Svenskeren not going to fish for the kill here. Nisqy already roaming down. Cloud9 have clearly figured out. They're focusing bottom lane, but haven't got much else yet. 3 tower plates in favor of Nisqy.
So this is what we wanted to see from Cloud9 earlier into the game, where Nisqy and Zeysal, when you do invest resources into them, can be that powerhouse, but now the gold on G2 has made its way bot lane.
Jankos flash out, not going to find the knockup. Caps here. It's all about the hook from Mikyx. Is not going to connect. C9 are going to be able to make it out of that one.
Yeah, and this is the tricky decision point for C9 since their top lane is so ridiculously far behind. On one hand, you don't want to leave Licorice to just get killed over and over, but on the other hand, you need to try and find an advantage somewhere. So I think that's what Svenskeren has kind of opted to do. Play around bot as much as he possibly can and just really just say good luck in League of Legends, Licorice, because that's what he's going to have to deal with this game.
That is a completed Seraphs versus a dagger. That's not fun.
Well, it's still the Archangel staff.
The Archangel staff. My
not a
apologies.
Seraphs
You're right.
yet.
My apologies. My apologies. Yes,
The
yes,
silver
yes,
lining. There you go, Chad. Always the positive side. Glass is half full, eh, Jet? All right, so that's something. And once again, it's brutal. I think at this point we're waiting to see. G2 are kind of the ones that need to up the pace of the game, continue to extend their lead, and it's just a matter of seeing what Cloud9 can do to match them. Boots 2 coming in very early for Licorice on the top side. And Caps not wanting to walk to the Petrifying Gaze, not going to go all in on that combo against Nisqy.
Yeah, and Caps has also been dominant throughout pretty much this whole group stage, actually. I mentioned earlier on the desk he has the highest KDA of group stage players, which is definitely not what you would expect after watching Summer Split Caps. And Nisqy trying to make a play.
Big Petrifying Gaze, Jankos kick back, shut down, coming in, that's going to be key. Taking a bit of gold away. Hook not going to connect. Wunder now walking down, but he's walking down to the entire team. That's not what they want, G2! Bit of a happy moment and a clean play from C9 to get those 2 kills.
There we go.
Hey.
That's the play that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's playing around bottom side. It's the only thing that C9 can do to try and get this game. And then fortunately for them as well, Wunder teleported in to give that bounty back. But here comes Perkz.
Walking him down. One more auto's going to do it. Perkz. Now backing away. Nisqy's going to be in trouble in the mid lane. Caps trying to go all in. The barrier's there. Nisqy now running for his life. The auto is going to get him in the end. Caps finds the kill.
Big play for Caps as C9
The
continues
hook
to try
comes
something
in.
bot.
Perkz starting to layer down the damage. It's good. The Kayle's there to mitigate the follow-up. The Rek'Sai goes in and comes right back out. It might not be enough, though. Jankos is going to be able to find 1 kill. Tunnels his way right back out.
Oh, and now C9 has to bail. Nice little flash safeguard over, but G2 continues to extend their lead.
So after C9 find a pretty successful fight in their half of the map, they unfortunately tried to overcommit some of their aggression, and then immediately lose a bunch of kills all across the board, with Caps finding a solo kill, G2 finding another pick on the bot side. They'll then convert this into the first Drake of the game.
And the largest lead at 10 minutes so far in Worlds 2019. Huge, huge game.
For G2 or in all of Worlds?
I've been told all of Worlds.
Wow, because we've seen some really one-sided games in terms of FPX versus J-Team.
And honestly, just so far so good. But I think for G2, they do need to clean it up a little bit because these shutdowns coming in can start to help Cloud9 get back into the game.
We're talking about G2, Jankos. They don't clean it up at all. How they succeed is by thriving in the chaos. They find terrible fights and somehow make it work. And while it often isn't great League of Legends, it's definitely entertaining.
It is absolutely entertaining. It's also nerve-wracking. I feel like if you're a European fan who's not 100% convinced, every game is anxiety-inducing.
Yeah.
You're like, is this the one where they throw it all away on a random play? Is this the one where the hook connects? Nope. He's first timing, audience. Like, give him a break.
Wunder's rather strong.
Just a tad.
Just a little bit. Oh, the Hex Flash hook. This is going to be the one. Goes in. Jukes. No.
Well, he can keep doing this.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not going back for another one.
To be fair, this is the ideal situation for a Blitzcrank. You've got vision in the river. You've got control across your lanes. You can walk to any lane and throw blind hooks at no cost.
So the irony is, he's focusing the target that has no boots, yet he still can't land the hook. And I don't know why, but I just find that so
If there's
funny.
anything we learned from yesterday, it's you don't mess with snakes, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's very true. Well, regardless, G2 going to convert
I
their
think he's trying again. He's in the spot.
He is.
Riptail is also going down. This is still, of course, Worlds, a serious, very, very serious game of League of Legends. 5K advantage. Wunder.
Can he land it? Ooh.
Sneaky sending him a warning shot saying, back off, buddy. No one kills my top laner 5 times in a row.
G2 has all the people there, so looking like they want to reset, though, instead of trying a fight, even though they have a 5,000 gold advantage, 13.5 minutes.
This is the most Hex Flashes in a single game I've seen from a support player. All right, Cloud9, though, setting up on the bottom side. Sneaky's there, slowly but surely pushing in here. Tower plate's going to fall away in a moment, so maybe they can break this one down. But G2 are going to be able to drop the Herald before plates fall. Looks like get the charge off as well, so even more gold into their pocket, a 5K gold lead. Not enough for them.
Next flash.
A little bit more.
Come on, Mickey. I want to see another one.
Who's he waiting for?
Anyone.
He doesn't know.
I mean, that's true. So far, his hit rate with the hooks, incredibly low.
He hit that one and when he got ganked and died. He hit that one at melee range against Svenskeren. That's the one I've seen so far. Here we go.
So Infernal Drake is going to be spawning in about 2 minutes. Cloud9 is not really in a position to contest, especially given, like, I was looking at Sneaky and I was like, he's going to be the bright spark, but he's yet to complete his first item. And considering we're only 14.5 minutes in, maybe if they can find a pick in the setup, that'll be their best opportunity. They do see Wunder doing the blue.
Hook is going to land onto Wunder. Mikyx coming in as well, but maybe they can just burst him down. They kicked it back. Wunder trying to realm more bout. Can't get away from Sneaky, but Svenskeren will grab the kill.
So those are the kind of picks that we're looking for. You attack in the setup rather than at the actual objective, because you know you're not going to win in the 5v5, so why take the gamble? Instead, just try and attack the enemy members when they're looking for this vision, looking to try and get these wards, and for Cloud9, that has proved to be a pick.
Caps.
Licorice can hit level 11 as well. He'll start potentially becoming a little bit more relevant. It's about stopping G2 from snowballing as much as possible, which, considering it was, what, like 3,000 gold 10 minutes ago? Oh, here we go.
Nisqy's in trouble. The minions block the hook, though. They're not going to go for anything else. We'll back off, grabbing the tier 2 tower as well, continuing to maintain about a 5k advantage, despite the pick off to Wunder on the bottom side. Perkz now rotating to the mid lane, grabbing as many jungle camps as he can.
Here he comes. It's coming.
Hex flash. Nisqy, the hook, the flash.
Okay.
That one we can give. I think he was going to hit that one.
That's fine.
Yeah.
He's at least 3% hook accuracy. Probably 10.
I'd check after the game. We have the technology.
We do have the technology.
Well, not for accuracy. Like we can watch and like skip through the VOD. That's the
some poor intern is like, here, Jet needs to know how many hooks he hit.
I can do it later.
I mean, my favorite one, we had the Nocturne stat as well, where Levi used 23 Nocturne ultimates in a game. So, like, we have those numbers, Dracos.
We know how many hooks he threw. We'd have to check the ones that land.
Yes, fair.
But I'm pretty confident it's 0 right now from the side of Mickey.
I thought we were counting the one he had to flash away from. It's too much U bias. Can't give it to him. All right, well, G2 are setting up on the play, but it feels like Cloud9 are here. Hook! That's what you were talking about, the cast time. It doesn't add up. The Kayle has kept him alive, though. Mickey now has to run for the hill. Svenskeren now going in the kickback into the midst of the team. A clean kick flash. Wunder now tries to escape the Sonic Wave. Svenskeren on a rampage coming in. Elder Dragon, or rather Infernal Dragon, has now been procced. Jankos has to run for the hills, healing up as much as he can. Goes under and will come right back out, but it is not enough. Cloud9 still able to try to come out on top in this fight. Caps on the backside, but G2 are split. Perkz has taken out Licorice. Mickey now looking for the class, but Perkz is taken down too. That's so many shutdowns for Cloud9. G2 overconfident in the play.
Caps still has ult, but C9 would look to try and clean this up.
He needs to make it out of this one. Pulls back, Lanterns there as well. Nisqy gonna go back to mid lane. Everything.
Flat.
Here we go.
So much suspense when he channels it.
Now, considering the deficit that Cloud9 found themselves in... Wait, is this a teleport? Yeah, it's a teleport flank.
Here we go.
C9 will get the
Infernal going
Drake.
down. Nisqy's gonna get this one. Oh, Zeysal's dead. That's the power of Syndra. Sneaky now needs to make his way out. Can't make it over the wall. That's a heartbreaker. Double kill coming through for Caps.
We have another teleport come through from Licorice node. Now it is Cloud9 that are on the attack, but Nisqy
now needs to run. The hook, will it land? No. No, it won't.
The game is definitely getting a little bit loose, and some of that is from C9 still finding ways to get kills. So actually just a good bait there by Zeysal, knowing he has Kayle to ult him once the GP kicks him in, and then Svenskeren gets a very good kick onto Wunder and waits until afterwards. If this game had been closer, C9 potentially would have felt better about it, but it's so hard to just judge the overall state of the game knowing how far G2 still is ahead.
I mean, they denied an Infernal. As you said, Dracos, they got a bunch of shutdowns. And considering the state of the game, this is a fantastic play for C9. And it at least keeps them more relevant in the game. And so I think that if C9 can keep finding these fights and keep punishing G2 for honestly their over-aggression, and the irony is the one hook that Mickey does land is actually the downfall of G2. So if anything, they need him to keep missing hooks. Otherwise, he's going to keep putting G2 in these situations.
That's a narrative. I can get behind that one. Mickey has to miss all his hooks for G2 to win the game. Okay.
I think during the summer split, as Licorice is
now in trouble,
collapsed on,
has to walk away. Mickey, the target has been locked down, but it does count. Mickey will land the hook. Licorice will go right back to the fountain.
And that was a play Caps was involved in. He's the only deathless player on G2, and I think during the summer split, Jankos was the one who seemed to go serious mode in a lot of their games.
Yep.
They'd be putting him on the Sejuani, he'd play tank duty, he'd keep everything going when everyone else was doing some of the crazy stuff. I actually feel like that's what Caps has been so far in the group stage, whether it's picking the Orianna and controlling the lane, picking Ryze in their chaotic early game against Hong Kong Attitude and having 11 CS per minute to later carry the game. And again, he's kind of doing it here. There was a bunch of roaming up top lane and Caps just stayed in his lane, got a big CS advantage, and now he's just throwing it around the map.
I mean, the thing about Caps is, and something we talked a lot about in our top 20 list, Jack, was how he's a player that internationally often doesn't really outshine a lot of the other star mid laners that exist in the world. And I feel like that in this group stages, I mean, even in the first half, he did get solo killed by Chovy. And I feel like he often proves how much of a gap there is between him and everyone else in Europe, and he's still looking to prove how much stronger he can be on an international stage. So with G2 guaranteeing their quarterfinal, I am someone that still has my eyes on Caps and still think, yes, it's great that he's able to have these performances against the likes of a Nisqy, but can you still keep up with the likes of a FLICKR, and can he ever overcome his eternal rival in Rookie?
And, I mean, it's a difficult task, to be certain. For now, G2 focused on this game. The hook will connect. The rest of C9 is now collapsing, but Perkz is just free hitting on his support there. Zeysal, Mikyx now going to be in trouble. Will get taken down. The Ryze is now moving in. The Lantern is there. Nisqy wants to take it, but he's not even concerned. He's focusing instead. Another hook lands. That's clean from Zeysal. And Nisqy's there with the damage to back him up.
Now, the Baron is alive, and all 5 members of C9 are up and ready to start it. The Kayle doesn't have TP, so Licorice really needs to start moving for Cloud9 to potentially come back into this game.
Yeah, the DPS from Nisqy is pretty good on the Cassiopeia. They just have to worry about Svenskeren taking damage. Caps and Perkz would want to fight this if C9 tries to stay on it.
Zeysal getting lower and lower. Svenskeren, no energy. Focus too much on the Baron. Does not have a lot left. It will reset. But Cloud9 still at a 5K deficit, but still fighting back at every single step.
Yeah, I mean, they pushed the game to a late enough point where one more big team fight from C9 could turn into a Baron and then actually an even game. So this would be the time where G2 needs to actually clean up their play, not have Mikyx and Wunder getting caught up. This is actually the second play where Mikyx has been going for something, gets picked himself, and then Wunder ends up showing up after the play has gone wrong, and he just gets CC locked by Nisqy's Cassio.
Yeah, and Cloud9 are actually working much better as a unit than G2 are. And whenever G2 look for these picks, it's actually they who are getting punished. So if C9, we already talked about if they continue to do this, this is the second time they've now punished G2 successfully. So there's no reason not to believe that they can't keep doing it. And it's now up to G2 to, as Jack was saying, clean up their play, get a little bit more control over their side lanes, because I feel that one of the big things that's hurting them right now is actually managing and setting up their vision. And if they can do that and set up for Baron, then G2 should be in a better position.
And fishing for a play. And you can't blame them. When you're behind like this, you have to go for some of these death brush plays. You're looking to catch out single members. And as much as we've been joking about Mikyx's Blitzcrank, hasn't had too much of an impact yet, whereas Zeysal on the opposite side has hit so many clutch hooks, had so many good fights, but still, G2 with the gold lead here, get the lane priority, they set up for this Drake, and C9 just are not in a position to contest.
Let's not forget that Wunder was 4-0 at the beginning of this game. Now he's 4-4. The entire Baron River is in control of Cloud9. And even though there is a 5K gold difference between these two teams, this gold gap doesn't feel as strong as it did earlier into the game, as C9 were baiting a bit of a Baron out.
I did very much like how they put Zeysal into the pit to clear out the control ward and put 2 people hiding behind the walls, believing that he was the tastiest of baits to potentially force G2 into trying to fight another bad play.
It's a game of psychology now, Daniel Jankos.
But it's tough when Caps is able to freely walk down mid lane and press into your inhibitor tower. It's always going to be so hard to hold on to any kind of Baron vision for an extended period of time, and Wunder just waiting in the darkness, looking for a single pick that could open up G2 to take the Baron themselves.
And the wave control by G2 has improved kind of since that last ugly team fight we saw. So Wunder, as you mentioned, waiting down bottom in the fog of war after pushing in bottom lane. Caps taking the mid turret after pushing in mid lane. So C9 isn't really as hidden as you would think.
Tries to make his way out of this one. The Kayle ulti comes in. Good timing, major cooldown used. Cap's gonna get a bit of poke back in exchange.
Svenskeren has flash.
Awkward sonic wave, but good on Wunder to sidestep there. Both teams honestly just feel like they're setting up for a bigger play here. Mikyx continues to fish with the hooks. Always have to respect the potential for this Blitzcrank. Has been a non-factor thus far, but as G2 set up more and more vision control, it will be easier for him to land this on an unsuspecting opponent.
This next hook might lead to a Baron, Jankos. The hook after this one.
That was a bold call.
The hook is leading to a Baron.
Yep. Setup is there. Blue buff has been taken away by Caps, but C9 are just going to walk into this one. Miasma is down. Major cooldown. Jankos slowly but surely getting chunked away at Cloud9. Do not feel comfortable to walk in and contest this. That's the Baron for G2. The hook lands to get the follow-up fight as well. They just got the Baron, and they take out Nisqy on top.
So G2, after all of the crazy shenanigans that have been this game, will secure the Baron. It's definitely been chaotic, but another fight is ensuing.
Mikyx getting picked off, might buy a bit more time. G2, do they want to go for a bit more? They've used a lot of major cooldowns in the trade, but good pick for C9. Zeysal, though, has to be careful. Perkz going to ult forward. Svenskeren leaping in and out. Good play. Uses the Resonating Strike plus the Safeguard to bait out the Zhonya's from Caps.
And throughout all of the shenanigans in the 25 minutes of this game, the gold lead has continued to grow for G2, and I think a lot of that is just looking at the CS of Caps. He's still at 10 CS per minute. You can see his bounty just continues to grow. Even though Wunder has died 4 times, he's still sitting at the same gold value as Caps. So they're keeping their gold up even if they're dying.
Kicked out
in
there.
situations like
good play by Svenskeren. Now has to back off, but we'll go right back in as soon as the team is there. The play comes out. Wunder now has to run for the hills. Kayle out there as well, and Svenskeren popping off this game.
So he did have the Seraphs up, chose not to use it, either forgetting or believing that it wasn't valuable. Hook now lands on the Caps.
He's got no stopwatch.
Gonna be big. Licorice now stepping forward,
Doesn't
but
matter.
just one shot. Zeysal. Perkz now on the way in. Already marked. Licorice is gonna get run down here by Perkz. He knows there's no ultimate. Svenskeren is just next on the list. Nisqy on the backside. Maybe they can hope to kill Mikyx, but they're not gonna be able to get anything else. The hook, it misses again. The ulti comes out for Mikyx, but Nisqy still has to run. He's gonna take him down. Sneaky, a nice shot to finish that one off. Rek'Sai comes in, the trap now on the ground, Sneaky now needs to get away. He gets it, that's the double headshot, point blank from Sneaky.
Cloud9 are continuing to find these picks. This fight has been 3 for 3 so far, flashing from Nisqy.
Clean turn away from Caps. Almost got caught in the animation, would have gotten stunned up. Nisqy could have looked to finish, but the TP's now coming in. Nisqy either needs to win the play or get out. He's not gonna get the opportunity. The Seraphs comes out, Caps burning down. Will it be enough? Walks back into the Miasma. Will not drop. Such a close exchange.
This game stays explosive. 31 kills now.
This is a messy game. This
really is.
So when you see G2 get such an overwhelming early game lead, expectations are that it's just a clean stomp. It has not been that at all. C9 have done a great job of finding picks, but mistakes like this from Wunder, look at how overextended he is, and everyone else on the rest of G2 is back in base. They're resetting, like...
Yeah, you would like to see from G2 them to be playing this more cleanly, because I think you want to get stage practice of playing clean resets.
Yeah.
Especially if they win this game, they go into a potentially first seed clinching game against Griffin at the end of the day. And then the good thing for G2 is wherever Caps goes, things go well. And every time he seems to show up in fights, it works out. Blitzcrank, on the other hand, has had the opposite effect.
What I've learned is that I don't need to ban Blitzcrank if I ever meet Mikyx in solo queue. I think that
he actually landed that hook.
But we didn't see it, so it's not a problem.
If a hook lands in a replay, did it really land?
Yeah, these are the questions, chat.
This is the thing that ProView ruins, is fun questions like that. Someone could check, someone could go back, but G2, Sneaky's down, they're breaking in the top side. It could be a last desperate hold from Cloud9. They definitely have the tools, the Petrifying Gaze up and available. The hook will miss once again. Now they just need to hold on to these inhibitors for as long as possible, but so difficult when Caps can just threaten. Zeysal continues to look for these hooks, look for these opportunities. Licorice now stepping forward to clear the way, but that's the mid lane tower broken, and that's the hook onto Nisqy. That's huge. G2 now it's going to be able to walk in and grab at least 2 inhibitors.
You miss all the hooks you don't take, says Mikyx, as he's actually able to hook Nisqy in, and now they have 2 inhibitors down, working soon on the 3rd.
Perkz left out of the Realm Warp, has to be wondering if it's personal. Something he said, something he did. Hex Blast from Mikyx, one more! Never mind. I don't know, I'm sorry, audience, I'm banning you. This could be the final siege, though. Once again, Cloud9 holding on as long as they can. Nisqy 14 seconds on respawning. No doubt this should just be a G2 closeout. But maybe Cloud9 have something left in the tank.
Now would need to have a big fight.
That's a very big Syndra. Wunder just walks up and finds the kill onto Zeysal. Nisqy now finally alive. Caps goes in. Is just going to find the kill. No! Kayle ult! I think he was trying to wait it out, but well played by Licorice.
Licorice comes up clutch there to keep his AD carry alive. C9 doing everything they can to try and keep this game going. Mikyx, unsurprisingly, misses another hook.
Nisqy taking so much damage before he even gets to fire back. Just getting outranged by this Syndra. Scout of the week will not connect onto Licorice. Wunder falling very low. The Kayle, 1.5 items. Can look to do a little bit more damage now as the hooks just continue to miss. Once again, it takes one connecting for this game to end. So as much as we're laughing at Mikyx,
so this game will never end, is what you're telling me, Daniel. For the record, I do have a good relationship with Mikyx.
And I want you to know that I would say 10 times worse to his face.
He is the type. I mean, all these G2 players are. One thing I really like about them, how free they are to joke around.
Yeah.
Whether or not they are successful or unsuccessful. Caps, interestingly enough, like he started off being one of the most troll players. His interviews have been remarkably professional at this World Championship. The one we saw on stage, he's been so respectful of his opponents. He talks about the struggles he's potentially gone through himself. And honestly, is playing the cleanest of everyone on G2 as well.
I mean, 7-0-6. No one is getting that bounty. That has to feel good from him coming through. And the rest of the team, you said it. Caps is kind of the rock right now for the squad, and it feels like it's been rotating. Which member of G2 is the rock? It was Jankos in the regular season. I feel like it was Wunder more towards the end of the spring split. In summer, it was Wunder and actually Caps who were struggling, whereas it felt like Perkz and to a certain degree Jankos had to pick up the weight. So,
I mean, the fascinating thing about this team is that when we think to last year's Worlds, when it was, of course, a different bot lane with Hyanan and Wadid, and the G2 that wasn't really expected to do anything. It was Perkz and Wunder that really came into their own and showcased what they're capable of on an international stage when they play at their peak. And Caps didn't have the best tournament last year. Don't have time for this as Mikyx looking for another
Got some
hook.
time.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. But the important thing is what a lot of G2, when all 5 members play at their peak, that is when we really get to see the full power. But very rarely do we ever actually get to see it. We're definitely
he lands it. Sneaky. The Kayle ult says no. It's going to take 2 hooks. Svenskeren now going in the redemption. I think it's going to be too little too late. G2 now looking at trying to clean up. Perkz flashes in, trying to look for some fancy outplays. Zeysal might just get cut down now. Licorice is next on the list, but Perkz needs to get out of there. He's stealthed up, but no. Nisqy will grab the kill in the end. Wunder Rumble bringing it to the backside, and that's going to do it. G2 from start to finish, absolute dominance. Cloud9 were able to fight back, but G2 held onto the lead. They'll close out the game, and they look for that match versus Griffin at the end of the day.
C9 unable to play spoiler as G2 rolls on. They move to 5-0 and are now 1 game away from having the first 6-0 in group stage ever for a European team.
Could be a huge accomplishment for this squad. And a lot of good moments, I feel like, for Cloud9 in that game, and it's unfortunate that the early game was so rough because the mid game was, they were going blow for blow. They just fell so far behind early on.
Just beyond disaster with that level 2 or 3 in the river. A 2v3, 3 kills going over as the 3. Summoners burned while Caps is able to free farm in the mid lane, and you can't give that type of advantage to G2 or Caps. So even though Cloud9 was able to scrape 15 kills back in the rest of the game, it was never really in question.
And the good news is, if you're going up against G2 in a best of 5, you'll probably never have to ban Blitzcrank.
I mean, that's true. But also, if you're a European fan, this performance probably didn't instill you with a lot of confidence. Like, Caps did look great, and the early game, at least the level 3 looked good, but all in all, that was a very messy game from G2, and you look at the form that we've seen from Griffin throughout the day, and it's just like, you're not as confident in G2 as you were.
Week 1 to week 2, as we've now seen both these teams play twice, like Griffin showed really marked improvement.
Yeah.
They're looking a lot sharper than they did in week 1, but we also know G2 beat them in that first game, so I'm just really excited for game 6.
And to see if this is G2, more relaxed, less worried, or if this is full strength G2 that is this crazy, that is giving up these many kills on a side lane. But here's the State Farm analyst desk to tell you all about that G2 win.
Thank you very much, Jankos. Indeed, we will try and break this one down, although it is a bit tricky. And first off, I do want to pose to the panel, how much fun is too much fun? It is a question that we've asked at the beginning of today. Let's first start by establishing how much fun do you think G2 had in this game?
That was like, if we're looking at the
10?
scale, it's a 10 right there. Like, oh my. They got like the free kill to start off the game, and from there they're like, well, I guess this is just a 1-1, so why don't we just keep trying to, you know, go for 2v3s and 2v5s?
I mean, yeah, so once again, we had the same thing, right? Where the jungler goes up to the top side of the map, dies very early in this bad matchup. This time around, though, it didn't just mess up Licorice's lane, it also messed up Nisqy's lane because he went up there on Cassiopeia, burned both summoners, missed the minion wave then. So with that big lead, G2 then, you know, snowball and invade and get more kills. But at that point, you're winning a game on the world stage, you're definitely having fun.
I do want to call up that first replay of the early game once again. Very unlucky from the side of C9, and it is kind of the same thing as what we saw, albeit a bit different, as versus Griffin in the first game. I hear we don't have the replay, which is maybe better.
Yeah. I mean, it's better for all the C9 fans. No, don't show this to them. Svenskeren has no business being in the top river right now. Jankos absolutely beats him. Kayle offers you nothing. So even though this turns into a 3 versus 2, Svenskeren gets killed immediately, and Nisqy is also chunked below 50% from mid lane.
No! Q into E, flash miss. It's
Why?
a disaster on all accounts. But this is the button. This is the go button for G2 to have fun, because the rest of the game is going to be very easy from that point onwards.
Do you think it's really that much of a calculation with G2 if they know, okay, we have 1 kill on this and this carry, Caps is this far ahead, it really doesn't matter what we do until the mid game hits?
I mean, G2 are such a confident team that I have no doubt that once that happens, they're saying GG, right? Like, maybe even in all chat, this team likes to BM you as well, right? So after you see that type of a play, I think they just coast for the rest of the game.
But still, that brings us back to kind of the first question. Of course, we are still looking forward to that G2 versus Griffin game for first place. But none of the questions you ever have about G2 ever get answered because they keep playing these games. What is the confidence level across this desk of when it is absolutely necessary, G2 will play differently in the most important games?
So we've seen situations where they have not played seriously in important games, right? The first best of 5 against Fnatic, games 1 and 2, they looked all out of sorts, right? Fnatic rolled over them, but then in game 3, they turn it on. When their backs are against the wall, they do have the ability. So my faith is still with this team that in those high pressure moments, as they move forward into the best of 5s, that they will come through.
I also think there is a difference between some of the games where in important games, G2 take risks and those risks fail. Or games like this where they're so far ahead that they're taking risks as well at that point. But this is calculated like, okay, I'm so strong. Let's see if I can, you know, 2v1 them or something like that. Like those are on a different level to me.
I feel like when it comes to G2, we've seen like both sides of the coin when it comes to almost every single player at G2. We've seen everyone kind of individually int on separate games. But
They spin the wheel.
Against Griffin, though, that was the game when everyone kind of cleaned up their play. There wasn't a lot of int, and I felt like they came into the game very, very serious with a plan and a specific strategy against Griffin. So I feel like they've shown a little bit that they can level up when it's necessary.
I think the same thing goes for the first game they had of the day versus HKA, knowing at that point that they had to win every single game in that day. I want to track back to Caps. We've been talking about him and his development as a player, and I think it will also be instrumental, rather, in the game versus Chovy later. But again, he's having a great game on this Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a guy who has cleaned up his play entirely. Coming into this tournament, you know, we've always hyped up Caps, you know, best mid laner in the LEC, go international, see what he does. And I think he's, you know, let us down a couple times, you know, especially against top-class international competition. But so far, throughout all of these games, he has been wildly consistent and absolutely stepping up to the international
Question
stage.
for you, Yamato. Do you prefer on the international stage to see a Caps that could, if needed, a 1v5, but is an extremely coin flip player, or the consistency you've seen from him here without those super high highs?
I think the consistency is the way. He's playing on a roster that is so fully stacked. It's, you know, if it was the past Fnatic roster, then sure, Caps needs to pop off, Cap needs to be that level of a player to win. But right now with this G2 roster, at MSI this year, when he was roaming, G2 was at its best.
I think it's similar to Reaper's reasoning on subbing in Blabber or Svenskeren, and he talked about, going against G2, against an opponent you think is higher than you, you want a coin flip. You want that possibility of a 1v9, but you don't need that if you think you are the best.
And I'm not by any means discounting what Caps has showed here so far. I just think it's very hard to shine on a roster like G2 Esports where everyone can have those moments. Kobe, now that I have you, I would like to talk about kind of this game from C9, almost our last game, and the first time Nisqy picked a markswoman.
Okay, honestly, it was a good start, right? They were ahead in CS. They were pushing in exactly what you want to do with Caitlyn, getting that pressure on the turret. Let's take a look at what happens here. This is much further into the game. This is very late game.
When he kills Rek'Sai.
This is going to be the double crits. This is going to be a good trap placement. He knows the Rek'Sai is coming, so Rek'Sai gets immediately trapped.
Well, what I was trying to get at is kind of your general feelings of the exit of C9 out of the group stage and what they've shown.
I mean, it's disappointing. What do you want me to say? It's been a very disappointing day, Shocks.
Don't make Kobe cry!
I think the big thing when it comes to C9, there was always this question mark of can they upset these two teams? And I think when it comes to Griffin, they showed in the regular split that they can beat down on teams that are worse than them. They always beat the teams, and that's why they always ended up first place, because they were so consistent. That's something that Damwon and SKT couldn't do. And then against G2, I feel like their lowest low still is higher high than what C9 could bring to the table this time around.
I was really missing a game plan from Cloud9. It looked like one of the biggest things and the first things to break here today has been communication for them. Multiple of these early game plays result in very, very bad positions for some of their lanes, and there's a very difficult time coming back from that.
Yes, it is. Ender, final note.
I mean, I just think Cloud9, I came in, I expected a little bit more. I think Svenskeren, for me, was supposed to be the MVP performer from the LCS, was supposed to come in here and be able to challenge the other junglers in this group. And I think that that wasn't able to quite happen. And quite frankly, if this team had played like we saw them in the LCS, I think they would have had a much better shot.
Yeah, just wanted to kind of end the chapter there for Cloud9. They can still win their next game versus Hong Kong Attitude, so they can finish that on a high note. But we will see how that happens. And as we go to break, it is with heavy hearts we share that CBLOL's mid laner for Flamengo, Goku, and his father were involved in a car accident and that his father passed away. Our hearts go out to Goku and all his loved ones.